Welcome back to the fish room. I recorded this video impromptu with the cell phone, but the audio was so horrible that I decided to do a voiceover out of respect for you, for the fish, and for myself. I decided to update you on some new developments. There have been a few ups and few downs, and some new projects on the horizon. This tank was built specifically for a school of pygmy hatchetfish that mysteriously vanished from the market. I would gladly give up on buying them if it wasn't for the single one I already had swimming in my other tank on its own for months now. He needs friends. He survived a shipment of 100 fish to my local fish store. He, I think he's a male, is either very resilient or an assassin. I ordered 12 of them from eBay, but it was a risk I shouldn't have taken. The whole bunch of them were squeezed into a poor packaging and didn't survive the trip. No more eBay orders for me, I guess. I built an enclosure for them to be able to jump to their heart's content without me worrying about picking them up from the floor. I will also add a school of black neon tetras with them. I still have 3 of them left in my other riparium. Unfortunately, these black neons didn't do very well. They had an issue I couldn't treat, but hopefully these 3 are clear and can be added with the others. My other 22-gallon black water tank is doing swimmingly, if I may say so. Neon tetras are all healthy and the ember tetras enjoy their company. Otocinclus catfish are hiding. The zebra danio tank is thriving. I was going to rebuild it, but I think this tank still has some good mileage left in its, tank. "42-gallon Asian biotope, the least problematic tank ever. I haven't had a single fish loss since day one in both incarnations of the hardscape. I still keep these 2 female bluefin killifish hitchhikers, even though it's not exactly their kind of environment. Here's the dwarf rasbora tank. I lost a few of them since I made the new setup. I just dosed the tank with some antibiotics and dewormers. So far the numbers remain steady. It's at 9 fish now. And in the Blue Dream shrimp tank we had some good news. A whole kindergarten of new babies. Their numbers were dwindling lately, so I've been staying on top of the water chemistry, temperature and feeding, and didn't have to wait for the results too long. "16-gallon long tank, my first ever tank. Unfortunately, I lost my friend Mark S. It was his time. He's right there beneath this gravestone. I left him in the tank to let his essence remain, in the form of nutrients for the plants. I felt like it was the best way to honor him and create a more lush environment for these new celestial pearl danios that I bought. These are still babies, so their colors aren't looking too flashy. I don't think I will be buying betas for now. I grow too attached to them and they don't live long enough. Now here is a story of healing and hope for you. This shallow tank was built for the hitchhikers from the other tank, but I decided it was too small for them and left it running with just snails in it. Shortly after, I lost sight of one of the black mollies that lived in the guppy tank. I was sure it died until I spotted it low to the ground, starved and exhausted, with signs of injuries from being picked on. I moved him out of the guppy tank into the shallow one. I was almost sure I would have to euthanize him. To my surprise, he was eating and remained curious. The only thing he couldn't do was float, which led me to believe he suffered from swim bladder issue. I adjusted the water to make it more alkaline, decreased the depth even more to make the water pressure easier on him, and kept feeding him lots of good gourmet food, frozen daphnia and brine shrimp. I was convinced he will be a sinker for the rest of his life until a few weeks later I noticed improvement in the way he was moving around. I kept feeding him well, and just this morning he was able to be reunited with the other black molly and the guppies. This was a lesson to learn about deciding when the euthanasia is called for and when it's better to just focus on the well-being of the fish. If the fish is eating and seems alert, the chances are that it's on a path to recovery. I'm going to think twice before reaching for that clove oil. The same goes for this zebra danio that has been looking wonky and distorted for most of its life due to a genetic defect most likely. But it eats and it can be seen chasing other danios. That's well-being in my book. Of course, euthanize or not euthanize is a decision to be made individually. If you are going for genetically superior good-looking specimens, it's your own moral call to edit your population as you please. Some people eat steak without a guilt, while some others don't, and yet others apologize to the cows before eating one. But the bottom line for me personally is well-being. Last but not least, glass catfish tank. I have a rebuild video on my channel. Feel free to take a look. These fish are pretty chill during the day, and it almost feels like having a large tank for them is a waste of space, but after dark they are going absolutely wild. They swim around the entire tank looking for something to hunt. This is when I give them their supper. If I fed them during the day, I bet it would feel to them like being woken up at 3 a.m. to have some breakfast. Plants in my tanks grow well without CO2, but then again, I use plants that are easy to grow. I tried CO2, but it made me nervous. Too much can go wrong. The more equipment I use, the more nervous I get. So if you did hook up CO2 but then complained about having to trim the plants all the time, just disconnect it and see what happens. Maybe the plant growth will be optimal enough for you to be able to ease off on maintenance. The no CO2 principle probably works better for hobbyists who focus more on biotope style look. In nature, plants are going through a lot and look rather rough. This tank also had the CO2 disconnected and the plants kept growing as lush as ever. Maybe it helps to jumpstart your plants with CO2 and then ease off on it. This cherry shrimp tank has no filter. It balanced itself enough to not need it. The shrimp population just exploded. I can't believe I almost dismantled this DIY tank. My 42-gallon also started with CO2, but it was disconnected because the plants were out of control. For small tanks like this one, having just floating plants is a simple and elegant option. This one has no plants in the substrate. The floaters do well enough to keep the tank free of excess ammonia and nitrates. Look at the difference in the ways the Salvinia from the same batch adapted to its unique conditions. Black water tank is more acidic and the light is stronger. The blue shrimp tank is more alkaline with more gentle light. The difference is mind-blowing. So that's it for this little update. Let me know what you think. Do I have too many tanks or not nearly enough? Do you know of any ways to make some of the elements in my fish room more streamlined? If you see something, say something. Thank you for being here till the end and stay tuned for more.